Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm preparing my beetle penjing to go in the fall bonsai shows. Here is a look at my penjing. So all the trees are surviving so far and looking good. I originally was going to style them more like a deciduous tree, but I've changed my mind. I think I'll develop them as sort of a conical form. I think that'll look quite nice. I added a little gate here leaning on the beetle just to give it a little bit of more of a junkyard look. There's some weeds growing up here which look really, really nice, and it does need some more weeds around it. I have a couple of possibilities. I could plant weeds or grasses or something, but I don't want anything that's going to spread and create problems later on. It would be nice to have something kind of surrounding the beetle. I do have some miniature ivy that I could plant. Here is a look at the miniature ivy I have. So it's quite nice. The leaves are nice and small. It would kind of spread. I'm not sure where I would plant it though. Yeah, it's kind of a cascading ivy. I mean, it would look kind of cool draping over the car a bit, but then I don't know. I don't want to cover the car up too much. I don't want it too distracting from the composition, so I'm not sure. I'll think about it. I did pick out a stand from the stands I have. This is the maple-topped one, and I think it's a good size, and I think the style is good. You don't want an oriental-looking stand with a non-traditional penjing. So I think it raises it up quite nicely. So I'm quite happy with the penjing stand combination here. I do want to display the penjing with an accent plant. So I was looking around and I found a pot that goes really nicely with this display. I have this pot by Aaron, and I think it goes really nicely. If you look at it beside the beetle, it's got the same kind of color scheme the beetle has. It looks, weather beaten. It's got iron oxide on the bottom and the top, which matches the rust on the beetle. So that's a really, really good pot to go with this penjing. The other possibility is I have the pot I made, which is here. And it also goes nice because it has the iron oxide on it. And the color probably matches the beetle even better. It's not an exact match, but it's pretty close. So that's another possibility. For these two pots, I would need a wooden slab to put underneath it. And my pot is oval, so it's nice to either have a round or a square pot to go with it as an accent plant, so it's not, exactly duplicating the pot the penjing's in. And the table is rectangular, so it would be nice to have an oval or a round slab of wood under here. So I went out and bought some at Michael's, the craft store. So here's a look at what I bought. So I got a round wooden base. So that would suit this one really, really nicely. It looks good on it. I got a sort of a irregular shaped one, but I think it's a little small for the Aaron pot, so that's no good. I got a rectangular one, which does fit the Aaron pot quite nicely, so that's a possibility. And then I got this thin oval slab of plywood, and again, I think the Aaron pot is just a little bit too large for that, so we'll use these for something else. So that's the possibilities, either the Aaron pot on the rectangular piece of wood or the pot I made on the round piece of wood. I have some varnish left over from when I was making violins, so I'll varnish up the wooden stands. I'll varnish up both the rectangular one and the round one. I think I'll plant the ivy in the Aaron pot like this. And I think that would be a really nice accent to go with the penjing. The other one is planted with these dwarf hinoki cypress, which goes also nicely with the penjing. So When I get them both finished, I'll make the final decision on which accent plant to go with the Penjing. When I was at the craft store, I also picked up this wooden table and chairs. And my plan for this was to have them sitting on a base, and then on the table here I'd have a super miniature bonsai. So I was thinking over here I have these little jades growing in John's pot here. That would look nice in the middle of the table there. Or maybe my Arizona cypress. Some of the other ones are actually getting a little large. So there's a couple of possibilities for that table chair display. I've got all my wooden bases out for varnishing, and I'll also do the table and chairs at the same time. So I'll get those open like that. And I'll just show you what I was thinking of. So if this is the base, I can put the table and the two chairs here, sort of like that. I'll show you close up. There's a look at the table and chairs, and then if I place a miniature bonsai on top, I think it's a nice way to display something very small, and it makes it look special. There's a close-up showing the size of the jade compared to my finger. I've got my bottle of varnish open. I think this is the first time I've opened it in probably 15 years. So this is a homemade varnish. It's made with linseed oil and turpentine. Both ingredients are boiled and reduced down, and it's a very tricky process. So here I go with the varnish. It's a very tricky process making your own varnish, but it can be done, and it turns out really nice in the end. It's beautiful varnish for violins. Oh, it smells good too. I've also made varnish using the sap from spruce trees, and that turns out really nice too. Linseed oil and spruce sap. And again, you have to be very, very careful making it, because all the ingredients you use when you're heating them are explosive. So don't just go try making your own without looking into the entire process first and taking the proper safety precautions, because it can be, as I said, very explosive. Yeah, so there's the tabletop varnished up. I'll continue with the legs and the chairs. And this varnish needs like UV light to dry it, so you have to leave your pieces out in the sun, and that will cure and dry it. It will not dry indoors through evaporation. It has to have UV light. I have got all my wooden pieces varnished up. Looking quite nice, I think. So I'll let those dry in the sun. I did manage to find my old oval-shaped piece of wood. I found it in the greenhouse. So that was varnished back in 2002. So it's got a bit of patina on it, but I think it could look quite nice with this planting. With the ivy and that kind of rustic Aran pot. Yeah, that would make a nice accent plant for the Volkswagen. My next step is to plant the ivy in this pot. I kind of like it kind of trailing down, so I think I'll have to kind of mound the soil up in the pot and try and get it sort of cascading down over the edges of the pot. Not totally obscuring the pot, but just sort of framing it. I think that'll look pretty good. We're taking care of a couple of baby squirrels, getting them reintroduced to the wild. So there's one of them climbing on the fence. Hello? Are you hiding down there? There you are. Hello. Hi, how are you? Look at you outside like a real squirrel. Hey, just like a real squirrel. Yeah, you're so tiny. Yeah, so we're getting them used to the outdoors because, you know, they've got to get used to the outdoors for winter. Are you playing on the tree? Oh, you're all squirrely. Hey, you're all squirrely. Yeah, so they're getting used to the outdoors. There's a pair of them. And we got them from young, and we've been feeding them, and yeah, they were in a cage in the back porch, and now they're headed outdoors. I've got a drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add a base layer of soil, bonsai soil. About like that. Now, I'll get this ivy out of the pot. Alright, here I go. Just loosen the pot up. And I don't think I'll, you know, fully change the soil. This soil looks fine in here. This will help me mound the ivy up a little more too. So I'll just kind of break away the roots at the bottom here. You can grow these little ivies into like little miniature trees. So I may take some cuttings off it and try creating a little mini bonsai out of them. It would be nice in a cascade pot. They have such tiny leaves. Alright, let me get my pot out and I'll try it out in the new Aran pot. I'm picking this as the front of the pot because it has the most mottled variation on it. This side is a little plainer. So I like this side. It has more greens and iron oxide colors. So here's my ivy. So if I were just to place it in the pot like that, it's a little too high. So maybe I've got to rake out the roots a bit. So I'll just lift it up. Oh. Yeah, just rake the roots out, flattening it out a bit more. That's still probably a little too high. Okay, let me try this. Now, the front of this would be... I kind of want it trailing both sides of the pot. So, maybe here. That's not a bad height either. I can kind of work with that, mounding it around. Make sure my ivy's overhanging the pot here. And I'll have to do a little trimming. Beautiful little leaves on it though. Just amazing. Now, do I want to offset it in the pot a bit? Probably. Move it over to this side. I think that's quite good. And then I'll just add a bit of bonsai soil in around it. So I'll have to get in underneath the ivy here and just... That's a nice noise, eh? Okay. Then I'll try and get this side. And then I'll get the front here. Pretty good. And then the back. Yeah, there's not much at the back there. It's kind of... It's right towards the back there. Okay, so I think that's planted. Now I will give it a good watering now. There's the front over here. Ah, it's a beautiful pot. just kind of untangle some of these vines a bit so they trail more. Like that. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'll get it watered. All right, here I go with the water. Give it a good thorough watering. So this ivy was a present from Blue Jay Bonsai, and I've had it for quite a while. I think it's from like spring maybe, or maybe even last year. Can't remember now, but yeah, he got me this little miniature ivy, and it's really cool. Okay, that's good. Here is a look at the final display. I think it's looking pretty good. It's looks nice together, the accent plant and the beetle. The wood has some patina on it. It's not brand new looking, so I think that kind of matches the feeling of the planting here. Yeah, so that is my display. I've got all my varnish pieces drying in the sun here. Oh, there's an insect stuck to it there. Yeah, so they should dry fairly quickly in the sun. There may be a little touch-up work to do on both of the plantings before the show. I may have to cover some of the bonsai soil with moss, and I may have to trim the moss on here. It may grow in quite well before the show, which would be nice to kind of have it growing a little higher around the beetle, and then I could scissor prune it some flat spots to give it a bit of variation. My VW Beetle Penjing is brand new. I just put it together this summer. So it's a planting that will mature over the years as I get those trees pruned up to look like coniferous trees. And I'll grow them taller so it looks like in the woods. I think it'll continue to improve with age. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.